Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin. Is it finally time to leave the sandbox? If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the sale on the premium list, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So, we've been in our sandbox for quite some time. We entered into our sandbox in the middle of May, and we're about to go into August. You might be wondering, what is the sandbox? Well, remember, when we entered into this region over here below 40K, we said in this region, Bitcoin, the valuation of Bitcoin, is essentially playing in the sandbox, right? What does that mean? Well, essentially what it means is that, Bitcoin has dropped like 40, 50%. And most of us here, if you're still watching my videos and whatnot, or if you're just still interested in crypto and you survived the last few months in crypto, most of us here would argue that the move to 64K is but an intermediate peak in a market cycle. And whether you want to say that it's going to peak this year or next year, whenever, is somewhat irrelevant. Most of us would agree 64K is very unlikely to be the top of the entire market cycle. And if 64K is unlikely to be the top of the entire market cycle, and it does end up being sort of an intermediate peak similar to 2013, how 2013 had two separate peaks, then it begs the question, well, when are we going to leave the sandbox? Because the sandbox, as we've said, it's just this region here, right? This is sort of the upper bound on our sandbox. We'll color it appropriately. This has been our upper bound on our sandbox. And then the lower bound has been all the way down here. And what we said is that, okay, this, generally speaking, is the sandbox that we're playing in. And now, who really cares what's going on during it, right? So every time it moves up, people feel FOMO. Every time it moves down, people get super fearful. But at the end of the day, if you expect Bitcoin to go to six figures this cycle, then what you do down here in terms of worrying on a day-to-day basis is completely irrelevant. Okay, so imagine if you look back at the entire summer and all of these moves, all of these roller coasters. Imagine how many times your emotions may have gotten the better of you, and you maybe reacted, very quickly to something. But at the end of the day, who really cares, right? As we say, don't stray, just DCA. Don't, ignore the noise and come up with like some type of DCA plan, and then just stick to it. And when you recognize that you're in the sandbox, you're okay with lower prices because you just, you've sort of operated deterministically, which is somewhat dangerous. But I've always said that if you're going to operate deterministically about anything in crypto, it should be Bitcoin. So you've decided, deterministically that Bitcoin should go, it should go to six figures. Therefore, anything in this region is to some level playing in the sandbox. Now the question becomes, are we about to leave it? Okay, so we've entered into our sandbox. Again, back in the middle of May, and we were at the upper part over here, and then again in June. So this was in middle of May, the end of May, and then in the beginning of June, and then in the middle of June. The last time we were up at the upper region of it was again back in the middle of June. We've gone down to the bottom of it, the 20th of May, the 23rd of May, the 8th of June or so, the 22nd of June, the 26th of June, and then again, July 19th through the 21st or so. So we've spent a long time so far in our sandbox, and now we're back up to the top of it. So it simply begs the question, is it time to leave? And while, it's going to be hard for anyone to give a, definitive answer, obviously there's going to be a lot of people that'll claim, we're going to go straight to 100K. There's going to be a lot of people that claim we're going to go straight down to 10K. But regardless, my thinking and the way I would approach this type of scenario is to say it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter if we break out now, great. We had almost 3 months in our sandbox. We said expect a 3 to 6 month consolidation phase. We would have had about 3 months, so it would have been the lower bound. If we come back down, which again, it is a possibility, if we come back down, who cares, right? You're basically continuing to play in the sandbox. Like, who cares if we go back down? It doesn't matter. I mean, if anything, you should just see it as an opportunity, right? You should just see it as an opportunity if we continue to play in the sandbox for a while. So remember that what happens in this area, in my opinion, is largely irrelevant. Okay, if we go down now and then go back up later, it just represents another opportunity. If we go up now, then hopefully you've been taking advantage of the opportunity for 3 months. Okay, so it just depends on I guess what your perspective is. My perspective again is that it is largely irrelevant if we leave it now or not. Obviously there's advantages to both, right? The advantage to going straight up is that we can just do away with the with all of this negative sentiment that we've had for the last few months. And we can start putting in higher highs, which would then probably lead to altcoins at some point picking up steam as well. So there's that advantage. The advantage to going back down for a while before we go up is you just get to buy Bitcoin cheaper for a while. So really, in my opinion, it's a win-win scenario, right? If it goes up now, your portfolio is going to grow. If it goes up later, you just get to add to your portfolio more, and then it gets to grow. As we've always said, bull markets make you money, bear markets make you rich. If you're investing in the market when things are bearish, you have the most to gain when things are bullish. If you wait for the market to turn bullish before you invest, then you've already missed out on some of the lower prices that you could have got in at. Okay, so again, we've continued our journey as we continue to move back and forth between the upper bound and the lower bound of the sandbox for Bitcoin. And if you go look at the bull market support band, which again is the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA, you can see that the 21-week EMA actually cuts right through the bull market, the 21-week EMA cuts right through the upper bound on our sandbox here. Okay, so we're actually slightly above the 21-week EMA right now. And the question will be, can we have a weekly close above the 21-week EMA? And if we do, can we actually rally to the 20-week SMA? As I said in a live stream a couple days ago, I don't claim to know what's going to happen in the market in the short term. I really don't. I make no claims to that. I would be surprised at this point if we didn't at least test the 20-week. Okay, I would be surprised if we didn't at least test it. Now, we could go above it, which would be even more bullish, and then we need to come back down and hold it as support. I would be fairly surprised if we don't at least come test the 20-week estimate, because we've tested it many times after bouncing off the 50-week, okay? I mean, if you think about it, if you go back in history, many of the times that we've bounced off the 50-week, we then go to the 20-week. There's been a lot of times where that's happened. I mean, if you go look over here, we bounced off the 50-week, and then we went above the 20-week. If you go back further, we bounced off the 50-week estimate here, and then we went up to the 20-week, almost within a couple percent, right? What's a couple percent among friends? If you go back to, say, 2014, when we bounced more or less off the 50-week, we went above the 20-week. So I look at this and say, it's hard to know what's going to happen in the short term. One of the things that is the most, one of the more powerful indicators, I think, is just momentum. And right now, we're in our 8th day in a row that is green. Okay, this is our 8th day in a row. Now, will this continue forever? Of course not, right? It's not going to continue forever. But look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now we're in our 8th day that is green. Eventually, we'll have a red day, and maybe people can start to process what just happened. But right now we're in one crazy move, and the momentum is just taking us up every single day. I mean, every single day, as measured from open to close, the valuation of Bitcoin is pushing higher. Now, I know we had a wick up to around 40.6 or so, depends on what exchange you were on. We had a wick to prices higher than we currently are. But again, if you're just operating on daily opens and daily closes, we've already put in 7 daily candles in a row that are green, and now this is the 8th one, which we're not sure if it will end green, but at least so far we're up around 1.63% or so. So we look at this and say, well, we're coming up to the top part of the sandbox here. And if you're curious what that may be, we actually had some wicks a little bit higher after this, this major first capitulation. We then came back up. We went all the way back up to over 42,000 or so. But more or less, you could argue that the upper bound here is around 41 to 42K. So, I would say if we're breaking above 42K, then we're headed towards the 20 week. Okay. Let's just sort of draw this line. So this was the prior local top over here, right around 42K. So that, I think, will be an interesting level to watch, right? That will be an interesting level to watch. We can extend this out over here and see that, in retrospect, it's the same sandbox, right? In retrospect, it's the same sandbox that we played in before. We've just spent a lot of time in it, a lot more time in it this time than we did over here, right? And so far, there are some similarities between, if you just sort of look at the structure between, say, like this move and then, if you just sort of look at the structure between, say, like down and then straight back up, sort of like what this looks like at the moment. So again, what are the main takeaways from this? Well, the main takeaways are, as we entered the summer a few months ago, we said expect a lull in the market, right? Expect a 3 to 6 month lull in the market. But the people that stick around when things are bearish have the most to gain when things are bullish. And the other thing to remember is that whether we leave our sandbox now or a week from now or a month from now or 3 months from now, whenever it happens, it doesn't matter. To some degree, it's irrelevant. Either way, it's a win-win situation. If it goes up now, your portfolio value is going to be worth more if you're just DCAing Bitcoin. And if it goes up later, then you just get more time to load up to then enjoy the ride later. So a win-win situation. Don't stress, right? As we always say, don't stray, just DCA. Take advantage of the bearish moves in the market. And then when the bulls return, you will be rewarded. We still have a long way to go. I don't want to give anyone the impression that we're out of the woods yet. We still have a lot of milestones to get past. For instance, we have the 100-day, which we are quickly approaching again. It's currently at around 40.5K, so we're approaching the 100-day SMA. When we approached it a few days ago, it was a couple $100 higher, but now it's at around 40.5K, so we are approaching that. And that will be an interesting level to watch too, because that also corresponds to the top of these daily candles as well. So keep an eye on the 100-day SMA. Furthermore, keep an eye on our bull market support band, which will be the determining factor as to whether we can resume the bull market. Okay, so again, the 21-week EMA is coming in hot at around 39.5K, and the 20-week SMA is around 44.5K. So there's about a $5,000 range between both of them. We're already above now. We're above the 21-week EMA by about $600, $700, $800, depending on exactly what exchange you're using and whatnot. But let's say $700 or $800. We're above that at the time of the video. Still have a ways to go to get to the 20-week SMA. Let's see if the momentum can get us there, because that's where the real test begins. There's a test coming, and that's where the fight begins. Until then, we're still in the sandbox. We could be leaving it soon. Time will tell. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Remember to check out the sale on the premium list if you want to know how navigating these markets. You'll get access to weekly reports and videos, the Telegram alerts channel, the Telegram chat room, and more. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe, click the bell icon to turn on notifications, and I will see you next time. Bye.